Pod Strangely Warm. I'm your host, Daniel Hawkins, and today I'm excited because today we get to continue telling the good Methodist story. I am joined today by Pastor Armando and Andra Villegas, the mission chair from New Riverside UMC right here in Fort Worth. And I'm so excited to be here in conversation with you guys because God has been doing some amazing things in and through you, especially in this season where we're being invited and pushed to be outside of the walls of the church again and again, right? Where we are called to not have a church-centric eye, but a neighbor-centric eye, right? How do we see the neighborhood around us in a meaningful way and partner with Christ where he is already at work in the community with us? And so as we get started today, Andra, I'm going to let you go first because you are in a room with two preachers with microphones. Now, you said you could keep up, right?
Okay,
You said
I'll keep up.
you can talk with the best of us, so we're going to invite you to do that. But Andra, if you will give us a little window into your connection to New Riverside and like the history there, but then also what you're doing right now to lead the church.
I actually grew up in the church. My parents started going to the church before I was born, but going back, my great-grandfather was actually a minister there when they were having itinerant ministers. Well, not the building, but the Riverside United Methodist in the community. So I grew up in the area. I grew up in going to the church. You know, we went every Sunday, and I'm now in a point where, you know, my kids grew up at that church actually too. My grandson is going to the church now, and he's wonderful. And, Sammy. And now I'm mission chair, and I feel like that is really my calling. I love it. I love doing all the things that we reach out to, and we do a lot.
Yeah, we're doing several ministries that are outside the box, that are outside the church, and so Andra has been just wonderful leading in the missions and outreach. When we first started, we got the three churches together. That was interesting because they were already doing a little bit, but we just started jumping out, and the fact that I came from a large church, we did a lot. And I said, hey, there's a lot of potential here and opportunities where let's get out and do that. So Andra has been leading that, and it's been great.
Armando, it's got to be a real blessing to have somebody like Andra in your church who's survived preacher after preacher after preacher. You know, in the Methodist system, we come and go, but really equipped and passionate lay people can make an incredible difference in the life of a church. And you know, while you're coming in with some ideas and that kind of thing, the church also has this foundation of who they are and how that gets expressed in the community around you. You use the word box, getting outside of the box. But for both of y'all, part of this season of getting outside of the box has involved another kind of box, hasn't it? Tell me a little bit about Bike in the Box.
We had the opportunity to have a Bike in the Box brought to our parking lot.
Okay.
And this Bike in the Box gives out bikes, repairs bikes, it just connects with the people. We have water and snacks out there on Sunday afternoon for them. The community comes in, and there's groups that repair. We have two people from our church who are there all the time. It is just that is their thing. And they are there, except for holidays, they're there on Sundays, just checking on them, taking out snacks, taking out water bottles.
Yeah, and several members will actually go buy pizza, and they'll bring it to them. The volunteers that are there, too, a lot of the volunteers that fix the bikes are from other areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
They come and volunteer for that. But let me just say this, the Bike in the Box is a prototype. This is the first they've ever tried before. It's really from the bike gangs of Fort Worth. That's where it comes from. They had storefronts and so forth like that, but this was the first time they were doing it out of a metal container, steel container. And we were used to those because when we had our church flood, we had a whole bunch of them out there. And so, but
bring it on.
Yeah. So when he came and asked Guido, his name is Guido.
Perfect.
You know her from Italy. So anyway, but he he checked the whole area out in Riverside, and he said this was a great spot. So we got together and we talked about it, and to partner with him and also with the Carter Riverside Neighborhood Association. So it's a three-way thing, and that's when we opened it up. We invited the mayor to come, the former mayor.
Yeah.
And then the present mayor right now has come twice already.
Very good.
So it's been great, a great experience.
We've had bike rides up and down the boulevard that's next to our church, and it's the community and kids and adults on tricycles and bicycles and they ride around the boulevard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's a great spot. Even when we have 4th of July, we'll have the bike parade. We'll have a parade there. So constantly, the great thing about the bike shop in the box is that everything is free.
Okay.
And people donate bikes too. And if they can fix them up, they fix them up. And then they give them, several people sign up for bikes in the community.
Okay.
And then they'll call them and let them know when to come pick it up.
Nice.
Or they take the parts and they use them on other bikes. And so... But the one thing is that they have all the equipment that you need there.
It's in the box.
Yeah, it's
all the
in the
tools
box,
needed.
everything. You don't need to bring your tools. They have everything.
I love that. So often when we as the church think about how do we, look into our community and how do we get outside the walls, we think we've got to be the originator of everything, right? We got to do it all. It's
Right.
Us and Jesus and we got it.
Yeah.
But the best things end up happening through community partnerships,
Yes.
right? And this has been really good for you guys, but also for your neighborhood. And it came together through a partnership with the existing bike organization and the neighborhood association.
Right.
And all three of you seeing a common need within your community.
Yeah.
What is it about your new Riverside neighborhood that makes this Bike in a Box a unique opportunity for you guys? What made y'all the right part of the community to be present in and a way for y'all to partner up?
Well, you go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I just think it was probably approximation to downtown, and we do have homeless in the area. We have varying incomes. I mean, I think there was a lot that went into it because we've had members in our church, a couple that I know of, that have been put on the list to get a bike.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I know that there are homeless that's their transportation. That's their only transportation. Right. I think it hits needs on different, whether it's recreational or mode of transportation to get from point A to point B. I just think there was a lot of different factors that went into it. And I know he's getting ready to open up another Bike in the Box.
Right, I think so.
Yeah,
Maybe on the north side.
Yeah, because one of the guys we had a bike show, and I was talking to we just started talking about life and things, and he was like, "Do you know where this is?" I was like, "Yes, I've been there." "You know where this is?" "I've been there too." And then he was talking about that the Bike in the Box would probably be on the other side downtown area.
Okay.
And so then we went through I actually went through the Bike in the Box with him. We were looking at the tools and stuff. I've never met this man. I couldn't even tell you his name if I had to right now. I think I'd recognize him just because we hung out for an hour or so just talking.
Yeah. So we have something in common, so we connect in
Yeah.
that way. But, Daniel, I want to say you're right. Partnership is much better than you creating your own. And the reason why I say that is because as a congregation, we want to be able to empower people, with their ideas and things. So since this came on board, I did get a little bit of pushback.
At church? A
Yeah, I
preacher
know,
got
right?
pushback? Never.
Because the bike shop was going to be on our parking lot there, But it was very little until after we went ahead and decided to do it. We saw the results of it. Yes, it does help the community out.
Yeah.
Several people come from everywhere just to be able to fix their bikes or ask for a bike. I'll give you an example. One time there was this lady walking with her, because Walmart is nearby.
Okay.
She was walking with a bag of groceries. And so she was walking by the bike shop in the box on Sunday. And so they stopped and said, "Do you have a bike?" And they, "No." So we gave her a bike right there and then. And
Yeah.
I happened to be outside at that time because usually I'm not always there. But I happened to be there. And so they got her a bike. And she was just happy about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And she was able to ride now home, instead of walking.
You were able to meet her in her immediate moment of need.
Right.
And give a gift that's going to make a difference in that moment, but last longer than that, too.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I was going to say, going back to a little bit of pushback, it was the unknown. And I think we're crazy to think that we're not going to have some, wait a minute, that we haven't done that before.
Sure.
We've always done this. What do you mean we're going to do this? And so I think that's just normal part of growing pains. That's just normal part of life anywhere you are. Oh, wait a minute, I've never done it that way before. How does that work? And so I think I would have been shocked had we not had a little bit of what.
Yeah,
What?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, how often does the Spirit's nudging make us uncomfortable on the
That's
way
right.
between here and there?
That's right.
And I mean, and I think Armando has done a great job of pushing us and making us feel a little uncomfortable and go, wait a minute, how, what? How's that going to work?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And so, but we've just had to talk it out. A lot of things.
And a lot of other things have led up because of that. We've been able to go to the schools.
Okay.
So there's like 5 main schools that we work with. 3 are elementaries, 2, 1 is a middle school, and the high school.
Okay.
And one time, well, several times, but this one time they asked us to go to open house. And so they asked a church to go to open house, so we're there.
You must be a good community partner if the doors have been opened.
Yeah, because we've done several things, popsicles, turkeys and stuff, different times of the season. But this one time we went and open house, and they had all the teachers. They had tables outside, and the families came, and they had a PTA meeting. And then they went outside to meet the teachers and anybody that they invited. And so a lot of people didn't realize that we had the bike shop in the box.
Yeah.
And then we can just take our bike, for free.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting because even though you may have it there, and it's only open on Sundays, right after our worship service. And then I think more and more getting out there to the schools and talking to people, they're realizing that they didn't know it was there. And so now they're starting to.
They also didn't know until those open houses that we were a bilingual church.
Yeah.
They truly didn't know. And this man does an amazing job. A service is he does English and then he does Spanish and then English and goes back and forth. And I enjoy it. I think I've learned some Spanish. I don't know Spanish, but I think he is.
Last name is Villegas?
I know, my last name's Villegas, and blame my husband. It's funny because my mom is 84 years old, and she goes to this church, and she has actually said sentences to me in Spanish, and I'm like, what? And she goes, oh, Irene taught me that. Or, because she's got a buddy that and they just have fun together. But yes, my 84-year-old mother, and
fantastic.
actually she's actually said things to my 3-year-old grandson in Spanish, and he's, he was yelling at me one time in the car, the sun's in me, oh hose, the sun's in me. And I'm like, I can't do anything about the sun in your eyes, honey. Just, we're turning the corner. It'll be okay. So, it's just fun. But I think we don't have a Spanish sermon and an English sermon. It's combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mix.
It really, and it's fun. And even the songs, because you sing the verse in English and then the Spanish one, I find myself looking at the screen a little harder, trying to,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I brought this book. This is the reason why I brought it. This book is called Fiesta Cristiana, and it was written by a bishop and his wife, Joel Martinez. And this book has several, it'll tell you which songs, hymns are in the Spanish and English. They're in both.
Yeah.
That connect.
That you
and
can.
the same.
Yeah.
So this has been a really good resource.
That's fantastic.
In using, especially working with Spanish-speaking congregation members and so forth like that. But what's been the challenge is getting the pianist to understand how this works. And so there's been times also that some of the hymns that she picks, there is no Spanish in the Mil Voces hymnal, right? And so I go on the internet and look to see if someone else has it in another denomination, and they do. And so sometimes I have to write the words out just so we can include it into the English song.
Go back
and then
forth.
Sometimes I make up the words. I've become a songwriter.
Your own translator. That works. I know. So our community at Martin is 1/3 Tongan, 2/3 Caucasian, right? And so first Sundays at 11 o'clock is our kind of bilingual hour. Most of the rest of the month we've got English language service and Tongan language service, but we've got our list of hymns so that we already know we've got, all right, we can do verse 1 and then verse 2 and and switch languages back and forth. But there is a gift from God living in a multicultural, multilingual community of faith, right? It does, you talked about the Spirit sometimes nudging us outside of our comfort zone. It nudges us outside of our comfort zone. But at the same time, God is pulling us along the way, not leaving us where we started. And that is just a beautiful gift. And you guys hinted at it a little bit earlier, right? New Riverside, right? You named it Riverside Methodist Church kind of early on.
It used to be Riverside, and then New Riverside.
Y'all are, you're doing amazing, remarkable things, but you're really a fairly recent partnership of a couple of churches.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, because I think sometimes in this season, people assume we've got to have all been together forever and ever, amen, for us to do much of any good. But you guys are still getting to know each other as you're getting to know your community, and like all that's happening at the same time.
We first did a Bible school together, a week-long Bible school together 5 years ago. So I can't. COVID kind of blew my mind. I hadn't thought about it, but I mean, it was a week long, and we just kind of went from there. We started having a Bible study, a woman's Bible study, and it was kind of uncomfortable because it was actually more Spanish than English. Okay. But they would put us in small groups with a mix of all three congregations, but it was 2 Hispanic and 1 Anglo, and so you had English and Spanish going back and forth, but it was fun. It was okay, and we had dinner together, and we met at houses. We didn't meet at a church. We met at individual houses, and so that kind of led to, because we were 3 churches struggling, and it kind of came down to everyone realized we couldn't survive by ourselves, and we were stronger together, and we just started talking about coming together, and we had no idea Armando was in the future, and we had.
He's still in the
future.
He's not here with us right now. He's still in the
future. We were like,
dream?
we kept meeting with the DSs. We kept meeting with people going, okay, we really want to do this. And they kept coming up with, okay, but you've got different cultures. How would that work? You've got different languages. They were really throwing stuff up to us, but it was good because it was making us talk and think through.
Ahead of time.
And because we just were like, oh, let's just go together. Well, no, we had to work. And I guess you came in like December of 19, January of 20.
That was December.
And then, so I mean, we were kind of rocking for a couple months, and then COVID hit, and we were doing the podcast, the Facebook and stuff, and because nobody, the churches, you couldn't go to church, and then the following February of 21 is when we had the freeze in this area. In the freeze of this, during the freeze, the pipes of the church burst.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and so for 2 days, nobody was there, and the church was in about, I would say, half a foot of 6 inches of water everywhere.
Oh my goodness!
So yeah, it was about $500,000 to fix everything. They cut down everything, all the walls and so forth. The pews had to be replaced. So
furniture,
that was
all
just
the furniture,
everything.
cabinets,
lots of things.
Cutting the wall up 18 inches.
But we still met there.
Okay.
Because let me tell you why I wanted to meet inside the church, because I wanted people to see that how it was going to be transforming and how does that apply to our lives. So there was that similarity, that comparing. But going back to how it started, I had no idea about any of this. I was at First United Methodist Church in Grapevine, and I was doing a bilingual service there too, because that's one of the reasons why I went to First United Methodist Church in Grapevine, was to start a Spanish service back in 2008.
Okay.
And then we did have it. 6 months later, when I got there, we had it, and then we kind of switched it over to a bilingual English and Spanish. I realized that I could talk that way. Go back and forth here and there, even though it was a lot of Tex-Mex, so So anyway, but
it's the best kind of worship, the best kind of food. So,
I know, that's
out.
People were saying, So tamales, all kinds of stuff, enchiladas. But anyway, with all that experience and also working with the community over there in Grapevine, just prepared me for when they asked if I would come over to start this new church start. And I said, man, this is it. This is a good time to do this. Yeah. So I did.
That's fantastic.
But then during COVID, we couldn't meet in the church, and we really didn't meet together at all for a couple of months because everybody was scared. You didn't go around. I don't know you. I don't know where you've been. Yeah. And was it after the flood we started meeting outside?
No, it was before.
We met outside, but we met outside before and after the flood because at first we couldn't get in the building because they were stripping the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
But we met outside in the parking lot, and people would sit in the back end of their cars. So they would have chairs outside. And you kind of got to know people in a different way. You know, I knew who you were, but I didn't know who you were. Sure. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the back tailgate of my car, and you're at the tailgate of your car, and, oh, I have extra cup of coffee. Well, people started, you know, and then but it wasn't like a big, everyone's got, you know, because you didn't do that. You didn't put out food to share during COVID. But, oh, I've got a canned Coke here, you know, that kind of thing. And so you started meeting people in the parking lot, which was just, it was
fun.
It really was fun.
And we're going to do it again.
And you had people driving down the street who would stop because we had the sound equipment out there. You'd see people parked, and you were just cracking up because they were like, what is this? What is this? And, but it was fun because we sat outside. It was very casual. If it was chilly, you saw blankets on people, and you know. But it was just really laid back, but that's what. When we started going back in the building, we were bringing chairs because it was concrete floors and nothing. But we really do think that probably helped mesh 3 congregations to one, because all of a sudden it's not my building, it's our building we have to rebuild. Because that's what we were very aware of. This was the building that we brought into this package.
Partnership,
And we, you know, as hard as you try not to say, we've always done it this way in this building, it gets, it's that
there's
whole,
a human impulse that direction.
It's mine. And so it had to turn into ours. And so when you walk in and see studs in this building, I just remember one time this lady started crying, and I didn't even know her name. We didn't have a connection. And it was, you know, and so I just was like, it's okay. I said, we're going to figure this out. And we did, you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, the worships that we had outside were fantastic. People were walking their dogs, they would stop, and they'd listen. You know, they'd stay there for a while, right there on the sidewalk. And so, but as a congregation, we loved it. And we put some chairs out there. Some people brought their own that we have already been talking about. When it gets a little bit more cooler, we're going to do the same thing, just to do it. Yeah. You know, it invites the community to come to your church.
You had people bragging about, I have a rocking chair.
Ooh, hey, watch out.
You had people in competition. Where'd you get that? I'm going to go get that for next week.
I'm so fancy. Well, it's funny, you know, part of my experience is I've got a failed church plant on my resume, right? And so when you say, Armando, you're walking into a vital merger, but it's labeled as a new church start, to say, let's start this thing December of 19. This is going to work really well, right? And then a year in, when you're finally getting your feet on the ground, you're going to have a gigantic flood, right? That just tears everything. And yet what I hear is that those were actually galvanizing events that brought you together, right? That you experienced pain and death together, but then you also got to experience the new life of resurrection, right? Even, you know, walking in the space and like, there's like when you said we see nothing but concrete and studs, right?
That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's like for a building, it's visual death, right? And then to work together to bring life and have Jesus pop in and partner with us in the midst of that.
That's right.
You know, kind of.
And you also got rid of a lot of junk.
Yeah, that's right. We did.
You had 3 churches with their stuff.
Yes.
And you don't need 3.
That's right.
You know, and so some of it is easy because, that got damaged in the water, you know. And then you had to be respectful for, I'm sorry, this has been in your church all your life, and this has been in my church all my life. How do you know? You had to do compromising, and you had to work together, and just. Once again, that nudge out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And it was okay if I gave up my stuff because this is, the backstory on this was really, really, really important. You know.
Well, it moved from yours and mine to ours.
Yeah, how do we do this together? Right. And then, you know, when somebody said, we got too much junk, we got to get rid of this. And I was like, you're right.
Those words have never been spoken in a church I have served.
Well, and I mean, like, I was in the kitchen. And this lady, and at the time I thought I knew her name. I had it wrong, but that's okay. She called me the wrong name too. So, but I mean, it was like, you don't need 80 knives. You know, you don't need, you know, 80
Unless
serving
they're
bowls.
useful for fixing bikes.
That's right.
You know, and so we kind of had to. There was a group that we just kind of went in there and said, okay, realistically, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, so it was a horrible time. I wouldn't want to ever do it again.
No, no. But I tell you, that's exactly those experiences are the opportunities to get to know each other. We talked a little bit, we didn't, but earlier I think we were talking about mission trips and how it causes people to know one another and each other. As a former teacher, those were the kind of things I had to. I taught middle school, so
God
I had.
bless you.
I know that. I had to remember that these kids I only have them for 50 minutes today, and that's it. And then I'm going to have another group of kids. So what kind of experience do I want them to have? You know, where they're going to remember and talk about it for weeks.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about those experiences. So the same way as a pastor, you know, a lot of the things that we do are all happening outside, you know. So what are we doing out there that are going to cause us to come together?
Yeah.
You know.
One of the things that I've heard again and again from y'all, first in the Vital Merger, but then also as you came together and you began to look out together into your community, the heart was to know neighbor, right?
Yeah.
To know each other, to know God. And y'all know Henry now, and he's got that image of the wheel,
That's
right? Where God is the hub of the wheel and we're all spokes, right? I can't help but imagine like a 1950s era spoke, you know, with all the little playing cards caught in it, making all the sound and that kind. Lots of different spokes going all different directions. But the more we draw near to each other, we draw near to God. And the more we draw near to God, the more we draw near to each other, right? We could be at this point on the hub, but if we're drawing near to God, we're drawing near to each other in community.
Right.
And you guys are like a living embodiment of that. And that's the witness I'm seeing and hearing. And that is just a beautiful thing, right? Whether it's community partnerships where you don't like make up a problem and say, oh, we're going to be the church and go fix it, right? You say, this is what our community is saying that we need.
Exactly.
And how can we partner with the community to make it happen?
Yeah.
And Project Transformation, another one. We didn't come up with that, but actually, I had gone to a meeting before Armando came. I just was curious about it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I had been talking to Beth for a long time about, tell me about how this works and stuff. And then he was able to, I had actually forgotten it. He brought it up again. I was like, oh, wait. I know about, you know. And so when we got it at our church this year, and I think it's amazing.
It is.
Because you're reaching out to the community and you're doing things at the schools. And
we had the opportunity to go to elementaries.
to
all the elementaries. I mean, I was.
We were at a carnival.
That's right. And so there's there's a lot of different opportunities of how we could connect to the community. But the elementaries were the ones that I really wanted to connect because I wanted them to know who we were and where we're at. And so that's why when we had Project Transformation, they allowed us to set up a table there as the parents came in and out, and we talked to them. And so it was just a great experience, you know, to being able to connect. One of the things, Daniel, is also that I truly carry with me everywhere I go. It's about the quote from Francis Assisi. He says, preach the gospel and use words if necessary.
Right.
So that, I'm a big believer in that. It's more about action. A lot of times we talk about things, but we don't do or act on it. So that's one thing I've been trying to help our church do is get out there, let's do, and then we have the opportunity to talk about God's grace and love. So,
well, and you know, so often you, in many ways, like culturally today, you earn the right to share why you do it,
right,
through the giving of, you know, through meeting your community in its need, right?
Right.
If you bring your bullhorn and get started that way, you're tuned out before you
That's
ever get started, right? You know, if teaching junior high taught you anything, right? You can't bring the bullhorn to start with, right? There's a community connection there. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing that with us and with our community here. If there was like one word of encouragement you wanted to leave people with today, what would that word of encouragement be?
For me, it's love. You know, love God, love your neighbor.
Okay.
That's me.
And kindness.
That's how I live.
I think we forget about kindness. It's kindness to people who are different from us, whether it's culturally or economically or physically. You know, you need to be kind to people, and we forget that.
When we start there, the possibilities for us and for community and for partnership are limitless.
Right.
If we start by loving God and loving people and approaching each other with a spirit of kindness.
Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Thank you for joining us today on Pod Strangely Warmed. I'm Daniel Hawkins, and I hope this has been as much a gift to you as it has been to me. If it has been a gift to you, we invite you to share it in all the places that you share things: social media, text messages, carrier pigeons to people to say, check out the podcast. Share this, because God is doing amazing stuff, not just at New Riverside, but in so many of the communities of faith, of people seeking to put their faith into action, to meet and know their community, and to love God and love neighbor with a spirit of kindness along the way. Until next time, I'm Daniel Hawkins, and this has been Pod Strangely Warmed.
I talk as much as he does.
I know she does.